It seemed my quiet son, whom I once thought might remain a bachelor forever, finally found his first romance just before turning 36. When I first met her, a polite young woman named Emily, I was immediately taken with her. Watching them climb the steps toward marriage felt like a natural progression, and I was more than happy to support them along the way. But our days of happiness were soon interrupted by tragedy. My beloved younger sister Ellen passed away unexpectedly. Emily's behavior changed drastically after that. As I was dressing for Ellen's funeral, Emily entered the room with a steaming pan of food and filled it onto me, saying, "If you're leaving, don't bother coming back." Shocked, I simply replied, "Fine." While Emily returned to her family home, I took the opportunity to remove all her belongings and sell the house. When she found out, I received no reaction, only a cold silence. My name is Sarah Thompson. My husband passed away 9 years ago, making me a widow at 52. Since then, I've lived with my pride and joy, my son, Michael, who works at a prestigious company. Michael is incredibly kind and compassionate, unable to ignore someone in need. He's shy and finds it hard to say no when asked for help, which often leads to others taking advantage of him. One incident from his elementary school days still stands out to me. Michael was part of the science club, responsible for watering the school's flower beds. Duties were split among the members on a weekly rotation. Even after his assigned week ended, Michael continued coming home late. Concerned, I asked him why. "Michael, why are you still coming home late?"
"I'm doing the watering shifts again this week."
His classmates had asked him to cover their shifts with excuses like having tutoring or stomach aches. Michael took their words at face value and agreed to help. I gently advised him, "Sweetie, some people might take advantage of your kindness. Not everyone is as honest as you." But he simply replied with a calm expression,
"Even if they're not hurtful, if I can help someone, that's enough for me."
This was just one of many stories showcasing Michael's selfless nature. Despite sometimes being taken advantage of, he also had many friends who cherished his gentle and easygoing demeanor. Michael excelled academically through consistent effort, always achieving high grades. He exceeded our expectations by getting into a prestigious university, graduating without delay, and securing a position at a leading firm where he still works today. Other parents often shared their worries about their children's struggles with school or friendships, sometimes seeking my advice. Compared to those stories, Michael was a model son who even greeted our neighbors politely, making me proud. However, when it came to romance, Michael was quite reserved. He never brought a girlfriend home during his student years and remained single well into his 30s. When his father passed away, Michael was concerned about me living alone.
"Mom, I'll move back home so you won't be by yourself."
Despite adding over 30 minutes to his commute, he canceled his apartment lease and moved back in with me. As grateful as I was, I couldn't help but wish he'd find someone special to share his life with. Yet, I lacked the energy to push him into joining dating services or social events, and so time simply passed by. However, just as Michael was about to turn 36, I received some delightful news. I was planning his usual birthday celebration, a simple dinner with his favorite dishes, and a small cake from our local bakery. "Michael, I'll reserve your birthday cake from the usual place. A small vanilla cake is fine, right?"
"Actually, could we get a larger chocolate cake this time?"
I was surprised. Michael wasn't particularly fond of sweets, and a larger cake seemed excessive for just the two of us. Plus, chocolate cake is richer than vanilla, quite heavy for a dessert. Sensing something, I asked casually, "Oh, are we expecting a guest?"
"Yeah, I was hoping to invite someone over. There's someone I'd like you to meet."
Seeing my son blush was a first, and I couldn't hide my excitement. "Oh, that's wonderful. Let me know if there's anything they don't eat so I can prepare accordingly." I tried to remain calm so as not to embarrass him, but inside I was overjoyed. The next day, I went to the bakery to reserve the cake and began preparing for the special day, cleaning the house thoroughly and planning the menu. Although I'm 61 and work part-time 3 days a week, I still had plenty of energy to get everything ready. The day arrived quickly. Michael brought home a charming 29-year-old woman. At the doorway, she bowed deeply and introduced herself with a warm smile.
"Nice to meet you. I'm Emily Davis. Thank you for having me over today. I'm sorry if it's an imposition."
"Oh, not at all. We're thrilled to have you. Though you could have spent Michael's birthday just the two of you."
"Actually, I insisted on meeting you."
From what Michael had told me, they'd been dating for about 6 months, Emily's birthday had already passed by the time they met, so this was the first special occasion they'd celebrate together. After inviting her in and settling down, Emily handed me a neatly wrapped gift from a paper bag.
Michael mentioned you have a sweet tooth. I hope you like these.
Oh my, you shouldn't have. May I open it now? With her nod, I unwrapped the package to find an assortment of high-quality chocolates.
Since Michael isn't big on sweets, I thought you might not buy them just for yourself.
Oh, that's so thoughtful of you. Thank you. I'll enjoy them dearly. Her sincere gesture and polite demeanor immediately endeared her to me. Michael watched her every move with a smile, clearly smitten. We moved to the dining table, and our small birthday celebration began in a warm and lively atmosphere. Since my husband's passing, meals have been simple, and the table often felt too big for just the two of us. But tonight, with a table filled with dishes and the addition of Emily, it felt lively and full. Eating together felt less like a routine and more like a joyous occasion. Michael seemed to have a bigger appetite than usual, and Emily praised my cooking as she ate heartily, which relieved me. The pleasant conversation flowed until Emily's eyes lit up at the mention of our home.
I'm sorry if it's forward, but I was so excited to see your home. I insisted Michael bring me here.
Oh, not at all. We're happy to have you.
Oh, this is such a beautiful house. It's older, but the design feels modern and sophisticated. I've always loved looking at real estate ads since I was little. Nowadays, browsing home magazines is a hobby of mine. Homes like this are rare to come across.
To us, it was just our familiar home, but Emily seemed genuinely enthusiastic. She spoke rapidly, a stark contrast to her earlier calm demeanor. Michael chuckled softly, perhaps accustomed to this side of her after 6 months of dating.
I'm pretty boring, with no real hobbies, so I find her passion really charming.
He looked at her with adoration, and I held back from interjecting, not wanting to disrupt their sweet moment. I was simply overjoyed that Michael had found someone he cared for so deeply after all these years. Emily and I got along well from that first meeting, and their relationship progressed smoothly. 6 months later, they decided to get married. Even before their engagement, Emily visited our home every other date, growing quite fond of it. She proposed that we all live together after the wedding. Initially, I hesitated, not wanting to intrude on their new life as newlyweds. Are you sure you want to live together? I wouldn't want to be in the way.
You're very important to me as well. Please, I'd love for us to live together.
Moved by her genuine eyes and words, I agreed. I'm thrilled. It feels like I'm gaining a daughter. Let's always be honest with each other to avoid any stress. If anything bothers you, please tell me.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be accepted not just by Michael, but by you as well. I'm truly fortunate.
Tears welled up in both our eyes. It was the ideal relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law that I had always dreamed of, but never thought possible with my shy son. I was confident we'd have a harmonious life together, but reality turned out to be not so simple. For the first 3 months of living together, Emily was thoughtful and respectful. Michael had met her through a work connection, as she was a contractor at one of his company's clients. Even after the wedding, Emily chose to continue her job, though it meant commuting for about an hour each way, longer than Michael's commute. Unlike me, who worked part-time 3 days a week, Michael and Emily had demanding full-time schedules. I had more free time, so I suggested I could manage dinners. Since I have extra time, would it be alright if I handled dinners? We didn't have a 2-kitchen setup, so sharing space and cooking for everyone seemed practical. I thought it might relieve them both from additional household stress. However, I did worry it might be too forward, considering Emily might want to prepare her husband's meals herself. Emily, though, smiled and shook her head.
Oh no, that's wonderful. I appreciate it so much. Your cooking is delicious, and I often get home too late to make dinner myself.
Her response reassured me, and I began preparing not only dinner, but also lunch for both Michael and Emily. I even took on more of the cleaning to make their lives easier, avoiding their laundry, assuming they'd prefer to handle that themselves. In the beginning, Emily would join me in the kitchen every morning, helping with breakfast and always thanking me for my efforts. But after a while, she stopped coming downstairs early. I understood that the long commute might be exhausting her, and maybe she needed more sleep. Without her joining, I continued making breakfast alone. A week later, though, Emily casually sat down at the table, already set for 2.
Since it's not your work day, I'll go ahead and have your portion.
She ate my breakfast portion and left for work, catching me by surprise. The next day she did the same. After that, I began making 3 portions instead of 2. Then Emily and Michael decided to sleep in separate bedrooms, which was unusual for a newly married couple.
I can't sleep well without my own space.
They both had their rooms, so I adjusted, moving to the smaller spare room. Emily had the master bedroom, the largest room in the house. She'd eat the lunches I packed and bring home an empty container, but her attitude changed. During dinners, she'd silently finish her food without offering to help with the dishes. She'd retire to her room after meals, leaving me to tidy up. The quiet dinners felt somewhat hollow without her earlier enthusiasm. Michael noticed her changed in attitude, and he started helping with breakfast preparations and even the bathroom cleaning.
If you don't want to do housework, I'll take care of it. But could you at least try not to look so unhappy all the time?
He tried to gently address her behavior, but she didn't respond. Michael tried having conversations with her, but she seemed uninterested. During this time, my only sister whom I cherished deeply was hospitalized. Having lost both parents, my family now consisted only of Michael and my sister. I rushed to the hospital after receiving the news and informed Michael and Emily as I went. Michael quickly left work to join me, but Emily's response was indifferent. Michael sat beside me in the waiting room, comforting me as we waited. Medical staff moved in and out of the emergency room, a flurry of activity heightening my anxiety. Eventually, a doctor came out with news.
I'm sorry to inform you, but your sister has passed away.
My heart sank. Michael and I cried together, overwhelmed with grief. Michael's aunt had been a beloved presence in his life, and he was deeply affected. In that moment, I hoped Emily would step in to offer Michael some comfort. Unfortunately, my hope was in vain. When Michael called her to share the news, she responded coldly.
Mom, Emily says she's not coming. She even said this has nothing to do with her and that she won't attend the funeral.
Hearing this, I was stunned. How could she say that? This is family. I was heartbroken, and even Michael was left in tears by her insensitivity. My sister had remained single all her life, so I was in charge of her arrangements, with Michael helping. We were already overwhelmed with grief, and Emily's attitude added to our burden. For the next 3 days, we busied ourselves with the funeral preparations, pushing thoughts of Emily's coldness aside. The day before the funeral, I decided to address Emily. Emily, I understand if you don't want to attend the funeral, but I'll be staying at my sister's place for a while to handle her affairs. Please look after the house. Emily didn't respond, and I left her to change for the funeral. Michael had already taken his clothes to my sister's house and would meet us at the funeral. Suddenly, I heard the door open behind me without a knock. Emily entered the room, carrying a pot of hot oil. Emily, what are you doing? She approached me with a cold smile and tipped the hot contents over me. Ow! What on earth? I managed to dodge most of it, but the bottom of my dress was splattered with the scalding oil and pieces of seafood. That could have caused serious burns. Emily just laughed, showing no remorse.
Oh, so you do know what this is. I thought it might be a little fancy for someone like you.
She laughed again, her words dripping with sarcasm. I couldn't believe her audacity. Why did you waste all these ingredients if you wanted something different for dinner? You could have just told me.
Oh, don't you get it? I'm sick of living with you. You said you stay at your sister's place, so don't come back.
Fine. With that, I stormed out, stunned and shaken, throwing a scarf over the stained part of my dress. As I left, Emily shouted after me.
Don't bother cleaning up either. This house will be mine soon enough. I'll be at my parents' while you're gone.
Tears streamed down my face as I rushed to the waiting taxi. I made it to my sister's home, my emotions still reeling from Emily's actions. I changed into one of my late sister's dresses for the funeral, a bittersweet reminder of our close bond. During the funeral, I focused solely on honoring her memory, putting aside the turmoil with Emily. Once the service ended, Michael and I talked about everything that had happened. Michael, she could have seriously hurt me. I don't know who she's become. Michael looked deeply hurt, and his usual calm demeanor broke.
Honestly, Mom, I've been doubting this marriage for months now. After the service tomorrow, we'll figure out what's best for our future.
With a heavy heart, we decided to focus on the immediate family responsibilities and leave thoughts of Emily aside for now. 2 days later, we said a final goodbye to my sister. Once settled, we returned to the house, only to find everything exactly as we left it. Emily hadn't returned, so Michael and I made a decision. We'd move out and clear the house of all non-essential items, including Emily's. We brought most of our personal belongings to my sister's home, deciding to dispose of the rest. I found a notebook wedged between the mattress and bed frame in Emily's room. I debated reading it, but ultimately did, hoping to understand what had caused her to change so drastically. Inside, I discovered shocking entries revealing her motives. Emily had always wanted to live in a large, beautiful home, and Michael's family house had been the reason she pursued him. She wrote about feeling bored in the marriage, having aimed solely for a comfortable lifestyle. I realized Emily had deceived us from the beginning. With a clearer sense of her intentions, Michael and I proceeded with the house sale we'd planned earlier. Within 5 days, we packed, sold the house for a real estate agency, and fully relocated to my sister's place. The pace of our actions helped keep our minds occupied amidst grief, a small blessing given the circumstances. I even felt grateful to Emily in a strange way for pushing us to move forward. Just as we settled in, I started receiving persistent calls from Emily. After ignoring her for a few days, I decided it was time to respond and face whatever confrontation lay ahead.
So, what's the big idea? I come back and the locks are changed?
Her voice was furious, a far cry from the person who once smiled in our kitchen. I'm no longer in that house, Emily. We sold it. I'm living at my sister's now.
What? You sold it? That was supposed to be mine!
She erupted, accusing me in a barrage of angry words, her voice filled with outrage. It was clear that reasoning with her over the phone was pointless, so Michael and I arranged to meet her in person to discuss the divorce. Emily's father, Tom, joined the meeting as well. In person, I realized how much I'd been projecting my hopes onto Emily. Her kindness had been a facade, and I had believed it because I so deeply wanted to.
So you only married me to live in a house like ours, didn't you?
Emily didn't deny it.
Yes, I grew up in a tiny apartment and always dreamed of living in a big, beautiful house. When I met you, I thought, why not?
Tom looked deeply uncomfortable hearing his daughter's admission.
I see. So you were never really interested in me, were you? Let's proceed with the divorce.
Michael's voice was calm but firm, clearly ready to move forward. Emily showed no remorse or regret. Then I brought up something I noticed during our move. We found that one of my husband's architectural idea books was missing during the packing. I hope you didn't take it, Emily. Emily's demeanor shifted immediately, a hint of fear crossing her face. Tom intervened, suddenly gripping her shoulder.
Emily, if you took that, return it now. There's no reason to steal from your family.
Emily hesitated, but eventually confessed.
Fine, I took it, and I share some ideas with an architect I know.
Her indifference to the betrayal left us all stunned.
Apologize now, Emily. Give it back and apologize.
I displayed photos from a private investigator showing Emily with another man. You are only dishonest with us, Emily. You were seeing someone else the entire time. Emily's affair had come to light, and there was no denying her actions now. She claimed she found Michael's kindness boring and had sought excitement elsewhere.
Emily, this could have been a stable life for you. Your choices have cost you everything.
Emily, seething, deflected blame.
You're just bitter, all of you. How could you give away the family home out of spite?
The house was never for you, Emily. My husband designed it, but he would have wanted it sold, as he himself once said. We moved forward because we needed to. Michael and I exchanged a quiet look, sharing a sense of peace with our choice. Emily's claims didn't matter anymore. We had chosen our path and would continue without her negativity.
I'm so sorry, everyone. Emily, apologize now.
Michael and Emily's divorce was finalized soon after. Michael opted not to pursue any further financial settlement, wanting only a quick and clean end. For a time, Emily continued calling, but we moved on without engaging further. I knew that someday Michael might find someone who valued him genuinely, and until then, we'd continue as we always had. A strong family, resilient and true to one another.